Hey, how's it going, everybody? So this is going to be part 2 of how to fix your Craftsman lawn tractor LT2000. If you watched my last video, I had an electrical problem where I wasn't getting power, and I tracked it all the way down to a fuse and got it fixed. But now that it's running, it's smoking a lot. White smoke is barreling out of this thing. It's getting worse and worse, and so I'm pretty sure I've diagnosed it down to my carburetor float is sticking. And one good way to diagnose that, help you guys out, is if you check your oil here, and you smell it, yeah, it smells like gas. Oil and gas do not smell anything alike, and if you smell any kind of gas in your oil, you've got a problem. So we're going to take this carburetor off and clean it up real good, and hopefully get this thing running again. So come along. Alright, so the first thing you're going to have to do is drain the gas tank. And how I'm going to do it is I've got pliers here, and I'm going to disconnect my gas line here and drain it into my gas can. Let's wedge that in there. Alright. This might be a little messy, so let's try to do it quick. Alright, we've got the clamp back. We should be able to pull that off. There we go. That wasn't too bad. Got a little messy, but it wasn't too bad at all. Alright, and so we're going to disconnect this here. This obviously is going down to the bottom of this float bowl. Alright, and we've got 10 millimeter. Take these two bolts off with. Be gentle with it. See if we can go ahead and pull it all the way off there. It'll make it a little easier if you can just kind of rock it and rock these things out of their notches. Alright, so it looks like this little wire here is going to come off here with an Allen hex key. I'm using a 3 millimeter metric here. Fits perfect. Alright, I'm going to leave that just like that. Alright, so now that we've got our carburetor off here, totally disconnected, let's see if we can get all that gas out of the bowl there, drain it out, and we're going to clean it up really good, even the outside. Let's get to it. Okay, so you got your carburetor here, all dirty, nasty. I got a couple paper towels I'm gonna use to wipe it off, but I got this nylon brush, nylon bristle brush. You can use a steel bristle brush or wire brush or whatever you want. It shouldn't hurt it, but this is a little bit softer, so I like this. I'll make sure I don't hurt nothing. Just remember to be gentle. You don't want to have to replace anything, but you're just going to clean up the outside real good, any gunk. You can use some carb cleaner to spray on here to loosen some of this up if you've got some really built-on gunk. Let's see, my gaskets there, we're going to leave them alone. You don't want them to come apart if you try to take them off, so we're going to leave them on, and they look like they're in really good shape. I wasn't expecting any of this to be in this good a shape, honestly. Okay, now we're going to take this bowl off, and it should just unscrew. I've already loosened it a little bit, so, and this is really where it's going to unscrew at, but you can use this to loosen it at first. We're going to get that off there. And here is your float. You've got your little pin here holding it on, and then down under here is a needle. Hopefully you can see that, and you'll see it when I get all this off, because I think I'm going to have to replace my needle. It seems to be working really well. I'm surprised this is my problem. Alright, sometimes this little pin here, hinge pin, can be tricky to get out, so just get you some pliers and pull it out like that, and don't lose it. I'm afraid of losing it here, so I'm going to go ahead and put it in my toolbox. And now your float should come out. And right there's your needle. And I think I'm going to have to replace mine. It looks good, but that can be deceiving. And so you can see, you want to watch when you take it apart how it goes in there. It kind of hangs just like that. Right. Alright guys, so now I've got me some air, an air compressor, and I put this on light air so that it wouldn't damage anything. Just be careful, you don't want no crazy amount of air. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to clean up this thing really good with air. You see that stuff flying off there really good with this air. I got it sprayed off, any gunk and build up and things off there. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this carb cleaner and I'm going to clean out really good on the inside. You don't need to use much of this. A lot will come out when you spray it. You'll notice that. I think it's pretty powerful. Now what I'm going to do is spray it off one more time, just get any excess and stuff off the outside. My cleaner will help break loose anything that I didn't get off the first time. Alright, I'm going to do it the same with all my parts. Just make sure there ain't no gunk and stuff on there. Yeah, as you can see, the inside of my bowl is pretty gummed up and this stuff works good. Okay, just taking a look at my seal here. Mine looks really good. If yours looks like it's old and cracked, you definitely want to replace that. Just looking for anything that could be leaking. And mine looks pretty good. Alright, so now that we've got our carburetor all cleaned out, we're going to go ahead and try to put it back on and see what it does. I was going to replace the needle, but the hardware store, Sears Hardware, had everything else for a lawnmower and lawnmowers and everything else you could think of, but do not have any carburetor, carb parts, carb kits, no nothing for carburetors. So what we're going to do is clean it, once I cleaned it up real good, we're going to use the same stuff again. And what I did is I focused on this hole where that needle goes in, making sure there's no debris in there. I sprayed real good and stuff. So do that if you're going to use the same stuff. And hopefully this will work for us. So let's get it all back together. The hardware store did have the stuff I need to change oil, and I would recommend definitely change oil because you got some gas in there. You want to clean that out. And most of these Crafstman mowers will have a list here inside the hood of all your parts that you need. And it doesn't include carburetor parts, but it does include your oil filter, your air filter, and that's another thing. Your air filter is something you want to do. I didn't show you that, but change your air filter if you're going to do all this. Alright, so now we want to get our carburetor back together, and just remember to put it all back together the way you took it apart. I kept my stuff in a bag here, and I would suggest doing something like this to help you keep the little stuff together. You don't want to lose any of these little pieces. Okay, so remember this needle goes on underneath there like that. And it's going to seat down in that hole, just like that. Alright, and then we've got this little pin. See what I mean? Don't lose that. Okay. And you've got your float bowl. It's going to go right over top of that. And this is going to screw right in there. Alright, so when you get your bowl on there, just make sure you get it nice and tight. And you can see this one here, some of them have a nut, but mine's just got the grooves. And for the grooves, this bad boy is perfect. So I'm going to get it about the size I want it. Lock it on in there. And I'm going to tighten it up as tight as I can get it. There you go. Alright, so I've lost that bolt that holds down this wire here into this hole here. But lucky for me, I found one I do have that fits, but it's a little long, so I put a bunch of nuts on there, and that should work. This ain't the best way to do this. If you lose a bolt or a part, you want to get it replaced with the correct part, but this will allow me to at least put this back together enough to see if it actually works. May not need the bolt if I have to replace this whole carburetor, if you know what I mean. This one goes in there and then wraps around like that. Now I should be able to slide this all back together like that. All right, now that we've got that on, we can put this air filter back on. All right, now we've got our two nuts that are going to go on the ends here. We're going to reconnect this connection here. We've got our gas line here. Alright, so the next thing I'm going to do is change the oil. I've got me an oil pan. It's got a little bit in it, but it ain't going to hurt nothing, and it should sit just like that, nice in there. This oil pan I'm using is perfect for this. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to open this up, and it's got this thing here that you've got to push back and then release. And there you go. And we're going to let that drain for about 5 minutes just to make sure I get it all. Alright, now that it's pretty much done draining and it's dripping a little bit, we'll leave this this oil pan here to let it drain on. We're going to need it here anyway because I'm going to take this oil filter off next, and this can be a little messy here. You want to, another tip, you want to make sure your lawnmower is on level ground. You're never going to get all the oil out, but you want to get as much as possible, and if you're on level ground, that's the best way to do it. Alright, so I've got this grip wrench that I'm going to use here to get this oil filter off. This should make my job much easier here. Alright, now that I've got it loose enough with that, should be able to turn it by hand. There we go. And this is messy too. Some oil's going to come out of here. There you go. Oh, let's try to get it off fast and over the pan so that it all goes in there. Alright, now I'm going to take some paper towels and just try to soak all this up, all this excess oil, clean it up here real good before I put the new one on. If you've got a little bit of oil down here, it ain't gonna kill anything, but I like to have it as clean as possible. Now we've got our new oil filter here. It's gonna go on the same way the other one just came off. Alright, one thing I would suggest doing is take some old oil here. You can use old or new. Some people use both, whatever. But just get a little oil on that ring just to get it nice and moist. Alright, now to put oil back in it. These take 2 quarts. 2 quarts if you've replaced the filter. I think it's like 1.7 or something if you've not changed the filter. We're just going to pour carefully, pour our oil in here. You can use a funnel if you're worried about making a mess. As long as you're careful, this should be pretty easy to do this without spilling a drop. I've got my gas back in it, and now it's time to give it a try. What I'm going to do is, it might smoke a little bit, and I expect it to a little bit, but I'm hoping it burns off the last of whatever gas is in there and stops smoking. And I'm going to be looking for any leaks or anything I could have missed. So, let's try it out. right, looks like it runs great. No more smoke. Carburetor's cleaned out. It's running good. Oil's changed. There's still obviously some more things in cleaning up I need to do to get this thing tip top, but for now I got a running lawnmower, and that's fantastic, without costing me much of anything at all. So at the most, if you don't have the tools, of course, and then you want some carb cleaner, so that's about all it would cost you. Hopefully, if yours is like mine, if it gets too damaged, you're gonna have to replace some parts, get a carburetor kit or a new carburetor even, but hopefully you won't have to do that. Hopefully this will work for you too. And if you have this problem and it starts smoking and you smell the gas in your oil like I did, don't keep running it like that. You will mess something up pretty bad that it will cost you and probably isn't worth fixing. So get to it and do like I did, and it's not that bad. So that's how you do it. Hopefully we won't have any more problems with this lawnmower this year, and I won't have to do any more how-tos, but you never know. And if I do, we'll see you then. Check you out next time. Peace!